And you are live.
Great, we'll call the meeting to order. Okay, is there any public comment? Okay, we could get, has everybody had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Any changes?
Nope. Nope.
Minutes are approved. Do we have financial reports and claims?
And my apologies, I did not get your money this time. If you need that, I can email that to you though. I do have one claim that I had to turn in. It was for the mountain alarm, the fire extinguishers.
Fire extinguisher.
For $105. So we got that paid because that needed to be paid, so very good. That was my only bill. I'm done.
That was the one that they contacted us on?
Yes.
They do our shop as well.
Oh, yeah.
Where the extinguishers at, just in there by the,
At the fuel pump and at the pilot home.
yeah, okay.
We do have one at Canyon Ferry, but they're not servicing that one.
No.
It's in the green, so I just,
There we go.
We have a motion to approve the claim.
I'll move to approve the claim for the fire extinguisher work.
With quorum, yeah, we go. Any discussion on it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I voted aye on that one, so we have a quorum.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Mary, do we have a construction update from you? Floor is yours.
All right, Mary Bell, Robert Petch and Associates. So construction's well underway. As you might have seen, all the pavement's gone and it's been placed on surrounding roads within about 2 miles of the airport. They did a pretty nice job on that. They're currently excavating to rough subgrade for all of the new pavements. Much of that's complete. They do plan to wrap that up this week, and we'll hopefully get into some subgrade prep, which means compaction and more density testing and preparation and laying fabric, all preparation for the gravels. And they may also do some edge drain construction, so some along all the pavements, parallel to the pavements, we bury kind of like a French drain to help protect the pavement section. So moving ahead, they have a 7-man crew most part, but seem like really good operators and it's going well. They've been great to work with so far.
Yeah.
Did you have any questions? Or?
They're not removing any dirt below what they milled off?
Oh, yes.
They are?
Yep. So we removed everything. The pavement sections range from, the gravel section, 10.7 inches of gravel to 16.9 inches of gravel. So we only had about approximately 3 inches of gravel beneath most of the pavements. So they'll be removing quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
And then there are some sections that are going to be a deeper, like I said, 16.9. They're going to have some deeper sections. There are some poorer soils in that area. We did actually have a geotechnical engineer out last week, did some additional DCP testing, so it's density cone pentrometer testing. So it's kind of interesting to see, and just to evaluate our planned areas for that deeper section and help out visually identify poor soils so that we get them all if we need to expand those areas. And it does look like there's some areas that are a little soft, and we'll probably expand that, but it's all part of the plan. So.
Okay. I just want to keep the...
Do you foresee having to put any more subgrade rock in or anything like that?
So we're kind of combating that with those deeper sections. So we do have enough gravel.
Okay.
We do have contingencies in the quantities and already planned in so that if we did have anything deeper, and we did plan fairly good sized areas with those deeper pavement sections to remove those poor soils. So, and then we can go a little deeper if needed as well.
Yeah.
So.
I wanted to just kind of update the whole board and the public in general about the existing parking area. So Mary and I and Buster, right? With
Buster
Bullock.
Bullock.
And, well, anyway, we went out there and looked at the existing parking area, talking about putting some of the millings there. So there was a discussion, and it really wasn't part of Bullock's responsibility. I mean, he offered to haul some of the stuff in there, and TJ could flatten it out, and there was some question as to what we had in mind there, and I think Daryl cleared it up for us that it's going to be the county's responsibility to lay that stuff out, and we have enough material sitting there to do that. So we decided not to mess with it now, I guess, right?
Right, and just really logistically at this time, you have a lot of equipment and in there. And there's also some, you know, for those hangars that are there, there's a lot of different grade changes, and there's a lot more prep to be done before they could just hog those millings in there. So that was that, like you said, big discussion with Buster and TJ Gravely, and so everybody was on board at the work that would be needed just to get those in there properly.
And all those millings are sitting right next to it, so when the time comes, the county can
They're very close, yeah.
do that pretty efficiently. Okay. And Jess had contacted me. She said she had several requests from people asking about those extra millings, and I said, boy, that's up to TJ, so talk to him.
Yep.
Would you say that's accurate?
Yep, it's up to the county.
Okay. Any questions for Mary?
It's looking good.
All
That's
right, great,
Yep,
thanks, guys.
it's on schedule and on track, and
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, it's still early to tell,
Sure.
but so far things are going good. So we'll be updating that too as those weekly reports come out. You'll start to see if we start to slip. We'll note that and discuss it with them and how they plan to catch up or whatnot. So, all right,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, so one of the big items we have to work on tonight is the new hangar. We have it down as a preliminary discussion. What we wanted for the purpose of people that are wanting to put hangars in on the new taxiway, we need a framework in place, some guidelines on sizes and direction of build. Lance in this drawing has given us a proposed idea of what could fit in there. So what we need to decide tonight is on the FBO, both the old and the new locations. We need to decide which direction we're going to build, east to west or west to east, and if we want to allow people to skip or move or change or whatever, but I suspect we want to build in order either east-west or west-east. And then also either decide on a uniform hangar size on these two rows or a minimum size on those two rows. So I think to start,
It would seem to me, if you're not open for discussion yet, though.
no, let's discuss it now. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, it would seem to me we should go from west to east, because with the snow flies, you're only gonna plow it as far as the last hangar. If you get, somebody puts a hangar clear down at the far end, you gotta plow the whole thing, maybe just for them. Just looking down the road.
Mhm.
Can be time consuming and it ties up equipment.
There's been a couple people that proposed, sorry, usually have that on silent. A couple people have proposed east to west because, well, Lance's thought was if we put this large hangar in next to the ramp and we build east to west, the spacing problem will largely resolve itself. Whatever's left, we can fill that space appropriately. There's one prospective person wanting a hangar that wants to start in the east, southeast corner specifically.
Yep.
So we have one discussion from west to east. So let's decide that topic first, I guess, west to east versus east to west.
Well, I think, Bob, you have a good point with the snow plowing, but I think logistically it would seem, from the standpoint of, what Lance brings up, that it would make sense, to start the construction on the east end from the standpoint of the spacing issue. Because the FBO isn't gonna go in first. I mean, we don't have anybody lined up to do that, so we don't have anybody.
It needs to be reserved though,
Yeah, it needs to be reserved.
a
That's
specific
yeah,
size.
That's the point.
So, what I'm thinking is, whatever's left over, it doesn't matter whether it's on the east side or the west side,
Mhm.
really. You
Well,
know,
I think the question becomes, are we gonna require a certain FBO size? Because what we have proposed is a 120 by 100, which is an awfully big hangar for Townsend. I mean, an awfully big FBO. That's 12,000 square foot. And if we have an operator that comes in, great, I want to put in an FBO, but I want to do 100 by 80 or you know, whatever. Because 12,000 square foot is out of the you know, what would be a reasonable return on investment in Townsend, Montana. Then we're stuck with an oddball size if we build west to east. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I hear you.
And, you know, I was a little bit shocked down at Three Forks at how big a hangar went in. That's not an official FBO, but it's beginning to look like an FBO. And it is, you know, what they did was they had 2 hangar spaces linked together in the middle. So it became one building, which was a bit of a surprise. Didn't expect. And I haven't been there, you know, since we approved the 2 individual hangars. But since I was there, apparently the board approved that being, you know, essentially made into a much larger operation.
Single structure.
With actually a ramp in the front of it in addition to the taxiway. So it's completely different than anything I expected to be built. So, you know, so essentially, if you're looking at this, instead of, you know, so the taxiway is running like this, but there's a ramp area that's actually in front of the 2 hangars with the bridge between the 2. And so what they did was they made it shorter and wider in terms of what you would have thought they might have put in to actually make a much larger, you know, space. So
I would like to hear Seth's opinion, and then also if Mary has an opinion on it. And the way we're going to do this, I think, guys, is let's break it down because we have several items that all kind of interconnect here, but let's break it down into separate motions. So we'll make a resolution on west to east, east to west. We'll make a resolution on hangar size, and then we'll make a resolution on what to do with the old hangars, or the old FBO spot. So we can just break it down into bite-sized stuff like that. So, but I'd love to hear if you have an opinion on that.
Just a question for Dwight, just because you're probably the primary person who plows. How much more does it take to just plow the whole thing and keep it all plowed? And then if we do approve these and people start in the wintertime, even though there's no active hangar, there's need to have it plowed for construction purposes possibly too. So it might not matter if it's west to east or east to west if it's a plowing issue, because it would have to be plowed anyways. I mean, if you issue leases to all these people and you line it all out, and they have, well, I can't remember what we had, 6 months technically to break ground to get the progress, and then you could do it. That means you could have a whole hodgepodge of construction going on, depending on how people do it. So you might be plowing it all anyways, irregardless.
It doesn't, you know, if you're gonna, 6 months is the end of it. It's not gonna make any difference in snow plowing. I mean, not a big difference.
Well, Dwight Thompson, airport manager. As far as plowing, I don't really think it's a big deal. That difference of a few hundred feet. Once you got the plow turned down the taxiway, you're kind of stuck in it and stuff. And that's the taxiways are probably the easiest things to plow. The parking ramp is the hardest thing to plow. And so, you know, I don't think that's a real big issue as far as the plowing goes. I particularly really like the way that you guys have that, or this laid out for the FBO, because it allows access from 2 different points. And to recruit a business to come in here and start an FBO, I think that'd be a big plus. You know, we've all put up shops and things, and we get done, we think, well, I wish I would have built it bigger. We never say, I wish we would have built smaller. And so having that size available now might be something that might draw an FBO in. I look at that compared to the other big hangars that are out there, and that is a big hangar, that's it. But, to bring a FBO in here that's gonna be able to do some work and.
On a larger aircraft.
A larger, well, and be busy with doing some annuals and stuff, it might be a real incentive to have that available. That size, I like it, that's my own gut feeling.
Yeah, I think.
Did that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, if how negligible snow blowing is to the situation. And then the other thing would be is it depends east to west. It might be dependent on how we break down the lot sizes that a person can build inside of. Because I had to zoom in on this because I have old man eyes. But the way he has this scaled is there's 60 by 80 and 60 by 70 deep. So he has uniform 60-foot widths on the south side and then uniform 50-foot widths on the north side. And so if you have a menagerie of what people want to build, it's just going to be this anyways. So it might not even be a west to east issue or an east to west issue. It might be more of a hangar size issue to begin with. On how we do that. Unless we just dictate a standard size and that's what you get. But that isn't the way we've done it in the past, so it might not be.
Any thoughts, Mary? No? I think we're all in agreement that the proposed FBO size of 120 by 100 should be saved. Am I wrong on that? Do we all?
No,
I
think
concur with
that
that.
was correct. Can I look at your map?
Of course.
And one thing we could do is, depending upon interest in hangar sizes, we could certainly relegate to north versus south side in terms of how we would lease the space out so that we have a more consistent hangar size side to side, and such that, I guess at Three Forks we have a huge variety of different hangar sizes. I mean, it's just, historical at this point, and it's historical.
Like our
here.
existing ones, yeah.
Yeah. So, depending upon,
I can't read
what
the
you're
hangar
looking
size.
at in
Does that
terms of-
Does that say 120 by 200?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess one thing to consider is if we're looking at expecting multiple aircraft per hangar or single aircraft per hangar, in terms of how we want to think about this in terms of the expectations of the airport growth.
No.
Okay, so we're kind of getting into size and conformity. I want to bring it back to east-west versus west-east, and then we'll tackle the next topic.
Well, I'll make a motion. I'll move to go east to west.
Okay, we have a motion to build east to west.
I can second that.
Okay,
I just brought that up as a point that if we're gonna plow snow, it could make a difference.
Yeah, good point.
okay, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, I'll start by saying I think as far as the building phase goes, I think that's a near-term problem. I think once the hangars are in place and we have a 30-foot gap when there should have been a 20-foot gap or something, that's a bigger issue. In other words, I'm in favor of the east to west because I think it largely eliminates that issue. The way, if you look around at the way supply and demand works for hangar spots in this region, I don't think they're going to be empty for a whole lot of time. I mean, who knows, but I would not be surprised if in 5 years they're full. So I think the construction phase is maybe a lesser consideration. It's a near-term consideration versus long-term use of the ground. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor of east to west, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll write that with the, unless anybody has any objections, with the understanding that that FBO is retained for a 100 by 120.
Mhm.
Okay, I think it's appropriate we talk about the old FBO first before we talk about sizes, because it affects the conversation on sizes.
Mhm.
So I did a little bit of measuring very crudely, and Seth and I were discussing this beforehand.
And where is that now?
This is the old one that's next to the Folkvord and McDonald
Okay.
hangars. So here's our options, and this is rough round numbers now. We can do one big hangar that faces west to the apron, and it would be approximately 80 foot wide by 50 foot deep, give or take 5 feet each way. Actually, that's probably the maximum, so it'd be that or maybe 5 foot less each way.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's option one, west facing large hangar 80 by 50, 80 foot wide by 50 foot deep. The other option we have is to put 2 smaller hangars in there. And those would be, they would have to be facing north-south, just with the space that's in there. And those could be, so now the doors would be to the taxiways instead of out to the apron, right? So it would just be 2 more hangars in the row. Those could be approximately 50 foot wide by 35 foot deep, which is,
Pretty small.
it's tight for it. You could put 2, regular Cessna type single engine airplanes in there,
Mhm.
tight, or 1 airplane comfortably. And the reason I wanted to talk about this before the rest of the hangars is we have every opportunity on the new taxi lane to put in as big as we want,
Mhm.
especially on the south side because there's a lot more depth
Mhm.
available.
Yep.
So I wonder if we should have 2 hangar spots there for smaller single engine,
Mhm.
single airplane hangars, knowing that we have bigger spots coming.
Mhm.
Now, Seth brought up that there's a water line and a light pole and whatnot. I think as far as construction goes, that's pretty standard. We abandon a line and cap it or whatever we gotta do.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
pretty.
only used to water that area, isn't it, Dwight? That frost-free, yeah.
What is this area right here? Just,
But the-
just open area?
That's
That
parking.
light
That's
pole,
existing
though,
parking.
is
Okay.
part of that lighting system that goes across the front of Daryl's hangar, and then,
I think you're gonna move
Yeah.
that too, right?
Yep, so
Oh,
the light poles,
that's
because
good
they're
to
in
know.
that object-free area, so the light poles and the hydrants are getting moved.
Oh, those are gone anyway.
Yeah,
They're already
Perfect.
gone.
they're
Good.
They're getting relocated, pushed back.
so maybe if we decide to open it, the hangars, we wouldn't even have to push the water line back at least, and then,
When you say push back, keeping in mind that there'll be 1 or 2 hangars there?
Is there there's 2 hydrants, or is there a third? I'm not thinking.
Well,
There's
the,
just one on
the,
that
There's
lot.
just one on that,
Yeah.
okay. What about by Wade's? Is it Wade?
No, it's, just west of the McDonald hangar, right out there. North of the light pole, that's the only hydrant.
yeah.
Oh, you mean, there is one over by Wade's, there's that one too.
Yeah,
Was that,
Oh, so you'd have to continue the line, it goes under,
yeah, that's right, it does go.
yeah.
I just wanted to, clarify that where we're moving them to isn't gonna cause a problem with building 1 or 2 hangars there.
That, sure.
Okay. So, something to keep in
It
mind.
shouldn't, I mean,
I'm sure that's been thought of.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's easier if we have the plans in front of us to.
Right,
visually
yes.
confirm.
Okay.
We could just remove that one hydrant, just remove it, just keep the line there or something.
because the line runs in the front, it runs where
Yeah,
those hangars would,
be behind it.
Okay.
it would be, they wouldn't meet where the line is because it's right up against the taxiway almost. So the hangars wouldn't even if they had to dig at the line, they'd be digging at the edge of those proposed hangars if it was a north facing and a south facing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because your hangars would be further offset from that taxiway, much like the aprons are on the front of the hangars. It
Mhm.
wouldn't be a 10-foot spacing, it'd be, is it 17? How far off center is it? the edge of the... I can't remember. I
The
just
face
built
of the
a
hangar's
hangar.
gotta be 40 foot from the taxiway center line. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so from where because they have a taxiway center line on the edge that runs there, and it's about 10, so that water line should fall within that, where there wouldn't be a hangar on top of it.
I think you're, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
So you're talking, I think I got turned around now. You're talking about the blank spot.
Correct.
Yeah, next to your hangar.
Yes.
Yeah, we did consider that. It wraps around.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
that water line. We moved it back between the two behind your hangar, basically.
Okay.
So it would end up between 3 hangars.
Great. I would like to hear more opinions on the 2 versus 1 conversation before we make a motion.
Well, I would certainly think that 2 makes a lot more sense, because then it gives you the possibility of like you say, having more smaller spots for people that, might want to have a single engine aircraft. I've done with that size, 50 by 35, I used to share space with a low wing aircraft, and I have high wing, so it fit in beautifully in that size hangar. So that would be great for people that want to share space, and so 2 single engines, no problem. So I think that accommodates people that maybe have a smaller pocketbook.
Sure.
Yeah.
They would face
I-
north and south, not
Person-
the...
Personally, I don't think, we're looking at the next 25 years. Do we have anything that's coming up that we're really looking at somebody moving in and with big aircraft?
Well, even so, it can only be 35 foot deep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, see,
If it were to be 80 foot wide is what I'm saying. Yeah, so I agree with you. I don't know.
I'm kind of with Rob. We need some more small spaces. We've got some pretty darn good sized spaces there that
Yep.
are gonna be available.
Yep.
Yeah.
If we have people that are,
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion for that, to that effect?
Sure. I'll move to essentially dedicate the old FBO site to 2 potential hangars that could be as large as 50 by 30, 50 wide, 30 deep, 35 deep.
35. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion is for 2 hangar spots, 50 wide by 35 foot deep. And again, to clarify, that means the doors would be on the north side and the south side facing the 2 existing taxiways.
Mhm.
Is there any further discussion? Now's the time, if somebody wants to see a bigger, wider hangar there, now's the time to speak up.
I think you should do one.
Okay, yeah, do you want to come up?
Oh, no, I don't want to do that.
We'd love to hear the reasoning. Like I said, I want to break up any groupthink that we might have, so if you've got a different opinion, we'd love to hear it.
Can you say, and you can say your name for the.
Hey guys,
Yes.
my name's Eric Stahl. Yeah, I think you should do one hangar. Gives you more options. That's just my opinion.
Gives the potential user more options for more
Yeah,
airplanes.
and you can move stuff around in there. Otherwise you're trying to cram stuff into 2 smaller spaces. Be a lot more expensive too if you build 2 as opposed to 1 big one. Just my observation.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, there could be somebody come along and want to build a hangar for,
You could do a hangar on each side and then one off the front too, and TMN if you did it right. That's what we did in Belgrade. Opposite T hangars and then one in the middle.
I will reiterate that we have on the new taxiway, we have the option to do larger. We've got proposed here 60 by 80 deep,
They're really
60 by
deep.
70, 60 by 70, 50 by 70, 50 by 55, and a 50 by 50. So we do have a lot of larger spots available. So the question is, what can we fill? Will there be enough people to fill that many large spots? Maybe. Or will there be people, like Rob said, I have one airplane that's a 172 and I want to fit an airplane in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I did have a individual that has a hangar out there now asked about this specific lot for one large hangar. And I think that they were waiting to see what the board's decision on that was, whether to follow up with it. And I don't know what, did Dylan get a hold of Dylan Lancello? He's the person that had asked me about it. But that's the only ones that's contacted me about that lot.
You know, the other option we have is to simply say that the spot is open and it's a first come, first serve. So if somebody says, hey, I want to build a 50 by 35, then there's going to be 2 hangars there. Or if somebody says, no, I want a larger one there, then have at her. That's an alternative option.
I guess as the board, I mean, it's just rental space for the
Exactly.
county, correct? So if we want them to maximize the amount of usable space. That's our goal as the board. And so if someone wants to do a single hangar, they should really maximize the usable space. Correct?
I think you're correct.
Yeah, I think the idea of leaving it open is fine. I don't have any problem with that. First come, first served, once we open the spot up and see what we get. So,
Okay, so we could modify it to simply say that we're opening the spot up to potential users.
I'll withdraw my motion.
So you're withdrawing your okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion is withdrawn. We'd entertain a motion to just simply open the spot on a first come, first served basis. Is that how we want to put it?
I will entertain that motion that we leave the spot no designation on it this term, this point.
Okay, so the motion is to open the spot for hangar use, undetermined on size. Do I have that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a second?
Second?
Further discussion? Gives us the most options.
Mm-hmm.
Gives the public, more importantly, the most options.
Mm-hmm.
The end user. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so that spot is available and we can inform the interested people, I guess, at the appropriate time, whenever you're talking about hangar space for the people that are on the list. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next item in this, the next subtopic here, I guess, is hangar size on the new taxiway. We've got the FBO spot reserved. It looks to be about 50 foot deep, is about as deep as you can go on the north side. On the south side, the line is a little bit angled, so it goes anywhere from, say, about 80 or more feet deep on the east end to maybe as little as 50 feet on the west end. Helps to have a map in front of you. If
Yes.
I can share this.
I have.
Oh, you have one too?
Yeah, well, I gave you each one, but it's small.
No, I remember yeah.
So, right now, our bylaws state, if I can find it, this is the requirements for hangar construction on the Townsend County Airport, excuse me. It says, hangar size shall be a minimum of 42 foot wide and 40 foot deep unless a waiver is granted by the airport board. Minimum sidewall height of 12 foot. The size of the proposed hangar will be appropriate to the lot size as determined by the airport board. So, in other words, our current minimum is 42 foot wide, 40 foot deep, which is really the minimum you can put a single engine airplane in. A typical, let's say 206 or something, has maybe a 36 foot wingspan or something like that. That would be a larger of a small single engine airplane. So really you need a 40 foot door, and I think that's probably why we adopted that years ago, was 42 foot will allow for about a 38 or 40-foot door for a, so that, you know, whenever the current user is done, meaning if the current user has a RV4 with a 24-foot wingspan, we don't want to build a 26-foot wide building and it's not usable to anyone else. So the question on this new taxiway is, do we want to stick with this? In other words, minimum of 42-foot wide, and we let them build in as they choose, and one guy will have a 42-foot, and the next guy will have a 80-foot, or do we want to keep them consistent? As drawn on the RPA sheet, on the north side they have 50 by 50, and there's 4 of them that fit in there. The south side is a little bit more, we got a little bit more latitude, but we've got around 60-foot wide hangars penciled in right now. So do we have any thoughts on keeping them uniform versus just keeping them minimum of 42 and build at will?
I think what we have currently would probably work just as well as anything there, because you're limiting as far as size of aircraft due to your depth already. You know, if you wanted to make them wider, well, possibly tie them together like Rob was talking about in Three Forks. But your depth, or what are you, 40 foot here?
These show 50 by 50.
50 by 50?
He's talking about the north side of the taxiway.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're 50, their depth is 60 feet wide and 50 feet, or 50 feet wide and 60 feet deep. At least
So
that's
they're
what it looked
deeper.
like on,
They're deeper, okay.
it looked like it on, I tried to magnify it, but
Yeah, I tried to look, was looking at
Mine
it.
says 50 by 50, and it looks like it pretty well utilizes the space.
yeah. Yeah, maybe it is fit, I don't know, it's hard to say.
And we don't necessarily have to specify depth. We could stick to the width, the width
Yeah,
requirement.
the width is probably your more.
think we'll
So the
always have
question
a
is, can we
minimum.
piecemeal it? Because it seems like the north side, if we want to have that dedicated FBO, you'd almost want to say that the north side hangars would probably be a max of 50 feet wide each. And then on the south side, you could maybe change it a little. If someone wanted a 50-foot hangar, then then that would allow a 70-foot by 80-foot or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it makes, on the north side, it makes more sense to keep them uniform 50 wide
Yep.
times 4. And then on the south side, we could have a lot more latitude.
Yeah, and that's just because of the dedication to the FBO.
Yeah.
And so you basically say if you're going to take a north side hangar that faces south in the winter, which is nice, that your lot space, your hangar has to fit within, you know, generally is maximum 50 by 50.
Yeah, I was just looking at the average wingspan of single engine airplane at this point is
36.
less than 40 feet.
Yeah.
40 feet or less.
Yeah.
So, would we want to go to 45? Does that give us anything on the side if we narrowed it? Probably not.
I mean, if someone did want to have a hangar that wasn't as wide, it could open up that extra footage to creep the hangar next to it.
Yeah, do 140 and the next one's 60.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of.
I mean, but you're pushing it. You're splitting hairs at that point. Kind of.
That's kind of where I'm going with this, is to have flexibility. Again, not everybody has a lot of money to build a hangar.
How's that stated there, what you read? Is that the minimum size, or?
Yeah, it says hangar size shall be a minimum of 42 foot wide by 40 foot deep unless,
I think
A
we
waiver.
need to keep that just like that. That's the minimum, and we're talking bigger all the way here.
And a maximum of 50 by 50 on
Mhm.
the north side
Right.
due to the FBO.
so we're saying 42 foot wide minimum, period. And on the north side, 50 foot wide max. And then no limit on the south side necessarily.
Are you putting yourself in the corner there, 42 foot wide minimum? If somebody built a 42 foot wider, wouldn't you be able to add another
Oh.
8 foot on there?
Yeah, right, you're right,
And you're putting yourself in the corner.
you're right, yep. Yeah, so if we have a couple, what Bob's saying is if we have two people, let's say, build a couple 42s starting from the east. Yeah, so we have to get rid of the max, don't we? Good point. So we could leave it that way at 42 foot with the understanding that we're gonna have a hodgepodge of sizes. Now, maybe that doesn't matter. It's the way our current airport is, and
Fill it up down the road, well, there'll be another one. Another
I-
taxiway.
I guess the only other consideration you want to take into is that depending on if people wanted, before you assigned them a lot, if they wanted a north side lot, then they come in with their designated hangar size, and then you can try and buffer it so you could try and maximize the space too, as long as they weren't dedicated on spot 3, you know.
yeah, my thought on the north side was, when I was saying 50-foot maxes, we wouldn't want somebody putting a 60 in there, then we're committed to a bunch of little hangars left.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So we could leave it this way, then we could leave the current bylaw in place of 42 foot wide by 50 foot deep minimum. And then do it a case by case basis, particularly on the north side.
Yeah, we want to have at least 4 hangars in there. And they can be varying sizes, but within the dimensions.
Okay.
42 by 40 or 42 by 50?
42 foot wide by 40 foot
Okay.
deep.
But there is, given that whole, with the FBO, I mean, there's 4 hangar spaces. How it adds up to be determined as far as widths.
Okay, so let's do it this way, just so, I don't think we need a motion, but let's do it anyway, so it's on the record that we're maintaining the 42 foot wide and 40 foot deep requirement. And we can, I think, just leave it in the minutes that that we've discussed that we're gonna leave it 4 hangars. We're gonna, what am I trying to say? We're gonna,
We want
case by
4
case basis.
hangars to fit in there in the most optimal way. And if some are larger than others, yeah.
On the north side.
On the north side of the taxiway, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the number on the south side isn't really that important, it's just a matter of how big people want to build there, I guess, is what that would mean.
Yep.
And we could leave that open to interpretation too, when people put that in there to try and maximize the space also.
Sure.
I feel as the airport board, at least my personal opinion, is that we want to maximize the utility of the airport and not have unused swaths of land.
And have to put another taxiway in.
Yeah. So we should have some variability, and if someone wants to have greater depth widths to be able to help move those lots around to maximize the space before we commit to everything.
Yeah.
Because then we'll have happen what we had last time when we had someone uncommit and then we have a space that's hard to fill.
What is the width of that remaining space? Is it 40?
Between Folkford and Wolfgram.
Wolfgram.
It's, I can't remember the width, but the maximum footprint of hangar that can go in there is 40 feet deep, 44 feet wide, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I measured it and had to deal with it, but it's right above the minimum
Yeah.
by 2 feet, I think, on width.
Okay, so again, I don't, because we're not changing a policy, I don't know that we need a motion, but I would just like it on the record. If someone would like to make a motion that states we're maintaining the 42 foot wide by 40 foot deep minimum on the new taxiway on both north and south sides.
Both.
And then we will maintain discretion as far as on a per case basis.
So moved.
Okay,
I'll second.
any further discussion on that? And again, the depth, I think, will be a case-by-case basis. If somebody wants a shallow hangar, we'd encourage them to be on the north side, because the south side does allow for such a deep hangar.
Right.
We'd hate to have somebody put a 40-foot deep hangar when an 80-foot could be accommodated. But further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
One way we could do that also is they can put whatever size hangar they want there, but they're gonna rent a minimum size piece of land. I mean, if it's 50 by 50 or 60 by 50 by 60, and that's set
We'd be
aside.
changing our rental policy then.
Hmm?
I don't think we could do that. We'd be changing our rental policy.
Agreed.
Think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Just thought.
Okay, if there's no other thoughts on that, we're going to move on. We have an item here, hangar lease requests.
That's just standard and I don't have any more.
Okay.
It's all good.
Okay. Do we need to discuss these emails that came in?
We could put that, I think I just have some preliminary questions. I don't know if you can answer any of them at this point. If you read them, I don't. It was just getting input on what I kind of emailed them and said, hey, let us know what your ideas are on your sizes, or if you're, we're having a preliminary discussion. I invited them to the meeting. I sent two. And they just, Leah had some definite questions about when we had to get started, or when it has to be this summer that they build, or can we wait until next summer? Those kind of questions. I didn't know if you were prepared to go there. So.
Well, once you're assigned a spot and you sign the lease for it, then you have that 6 months starts to break ground, and then it goes on from there. So I think that all comes down to you submit your size, and we try and accommodate everyone as best as possible, and then if they accept the spot that we try and for the airport, then we start assigning leases as such.
Yeah, so to answer people's question, as far as when to sign, just know that they have 180 days to start building. Keeping in mind that they may or may not be able to get in there for a while.
So if they have their name on that spot, they still have the spot.
And we
They
could
just
make it.
can't- They just don't, they don't sign a lease, they're not locked in. That's
As
what
the
that-
board, if they sign a lease, they have to have, I don't know, as a landlord, you'd have to be able to grant them full use of it. And if it's under construction, we can't do that. So we can say tentatively until from the end date of the construction is when, once you accept your assigned lot going forward,
Yeah.
is when you do it.
Yeah, so
And
it's
not anything
180,
during the construction.
180 days before they need to break ground. And they
Yeah.
have 180 days for completion. And again, that can be extended, if there's an extenuating circumstance with construction or whatever. I mean,
Materials,
we
and
have,
the such.
we'll be reasonable about it. And,
Lord knows we've done it before.
right.
And I think
Does
the
that answer
rest
your
of
question?
when I read, sorry.
Did you have a comment?
Come on.
Yeah.
Please.
Got a couple of questions here for you.
Good.
So, I just bought my airplane. I can't even get a motor for 16 months or something like that. So I'm probably not going to build a hangar for a year and a half, 2 years. So you're saying that it has to start in 6
According
months.
to the lease that when I built a hangar with my father, we had, the instant we chose our lot, it was 6 months to break ground and then 6 months to complete.
What if we're paying on the lease anyway?
It voids, the lease language voids it if you don't start construction. You can reapply for it. I think there was things like
I'm going
that.
to say 6 months is kind of capricious.
It's what everyone did before, though. That's what I did.
And we did it at Three Forks, so same thing. So, I mean.
Well, yeah, to give an example of how this has gone awry in the past, in Livingston, there was a gentleman that leased 3 spots with the intent to build. Years and years went by, and maybe you're familiar with this, Mary, but things changed, got old or ran out of money or whatever the case was. His life changed, decided not to build on it. Well, now he's got 3 lease spots that in order for him to give up the lease, you know, they're now worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so then it becomes, well, great, I'm going to go, you know, John Q. Public can say, well, I'm going to lease up a couple of myself, wait 5 years, and make a couple $100,000 quick, you know. And so the idea is, if you're ready to for a hangar spot and to build, then that's the appropriate thing to do. If we drag it out, then we run into other issues about it becomes a real estate development versus aeronautical use.
Okay.
And the other side of the coin, people have hangar spaces tied up. We've got people in line to want to build a hangar. We have no spaces because those have been spoken for.
I think it's gonna be a while before you fill up all the hangar spaces, but
Well, and that's to the advantage. So if you're not ready,
yeah.
and there's
So
still
I'll come
hangars-
back in 18 months. See if you
Well,
have anything left.
exactly.
The other thing you could
Now to
do
go somewhere else.
is you can actually build your hangar.
What's that?
You can actually build your hangar. Even though your airplane isn't gonna be in it, you can.
You can
build a
register your
hangar.
airplane at the
And
airport.
you could potentially lease out the space.
Shelling out $230,000 for an airplane. I might not want to shell out that much for a hangar right away.
Yeah, I mean, it's all
Yeah.
cash flow, I understand, but I mean, that's an option,
Okay.
yeah.
What do you build a kit?
Yeah, RV8.
Nice.
Okay, does that answer the question?
I
Yeah.
think so. Just so that I understand, so if I get questions, I thought I can.
Yeah, I just think that we already have that language in there, and if we get outside of it, it's a slippery slope.
This is
So,
following the lease language.
Yeah, yeah, it's what everyone else, what I did, it's what I had to do, it's what everyone else had to do, so.
Yeah.
And I mean, it allows for extensions.
After the
Mhm.
leases, after the lot is then assigned, if they have to know where their lot is, then they sign the
Yeah,
lease. Then they
yeah.
can move. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
I just
and
wanted-
with the caveat that all the construction is done and you have fair access to the lease, or to the lot that you're,
Okay,
you know, there's no encumbrances, things of that nature.
got it.
You know, as a landlord, the county, I would assume that you'd be held to that standard, so.
And I think reading through the other emails, I think many of the questions are simply answered in the documentation that we normally provide, you know, in
I agree.
the process of getting the lease. So I don't think there's anything really additionally to address that I can see.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, next item, we have the Cody Folkvord property space at 8 Uniform 8. To refresh, we're talking about the space that's between the existing large Folkvord hangar and the Wolfgram hangar, and that's a small lot, approximately 40 by 40 or 42 by 40, something to that
40
effect.
foot depth, 44-foot width maximum.
So at the last meeting, we said we were going to decide whether or not we would lease a empty lot to Cody Folkvord or retain it for an actual hangar build. And some of the concerns were, as far as leasing out a empty lot, is the precedence that it sets. So for example, if we were to approve that, then we have the same situation on the new taxi lane. Someone might say, well, I want a parking area next to mine, and you did it for somebody else, and I want it for mine, and I got a fuel tank I want to put out, etc., which is essentially what that spot would be used for, is fuel and equipment and whatnot.
It's a business though.
Yep, the other side of the coin is, it's a local business, and of course we want to try to accommodate him as much as possible for him to succeed. So anyway, on the agenda, we do need to decide if A, we're going to lease it to Cody Folkvord as a blank spot, or B, retain it for whoever wants to build a hangar there.
And a question I would have, do we have any people that have moved forward to move into a lease? Have they taken the steps to do so?
The last time I emailed people, yeah, was they said that yes, they were interested and they would get the paperwork soon. I sent 2 emails since then and have not heard anything. So
In all reality, I think we just summed it up in the last discussion also, is it allows for a minimum size hangar per our records. And so any lease that we have on the ground is intended for hangars, and it should be a hangar spot. If you can put a hangar on it, then it should be a hangar spot.
As long as we have enough space between them and,
As long as there's enough space, and that space meets the minimum 42 by 40 is what we just put in the minutes.
I'll add 2 considerations to the conversation. Number 1, in our bylaws, it does specifically state 1 lot per person or commercial entity. So we would have to change that. The other consideration, at least to my mind, is things change, businesses, missions change. What happens in 5 years or 10 years when that no longer is needed, and then do we go back to the same Livingston discussion where he's now got, let's say it's the last hangar spot or one of the last small hangar spots or whatever, and the value then goes through the roof. Are we unfairly benefiting one person at the expense of the general public?
Well, I think the key thing he just said was that in our bylaws, you can only have 1 lot. I mean, that pretty much is it. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
and we're not gonna change that. So I think that excludes having 2 lots. So I think that's where we are.
I asked Lance about this just because he's got so much perspective on so many airports and the history. And I don't want to speak for Lance, but I think the gist of it was that he said, yeah, 15 years ago, if you'd asked me that, sure, whatever. But he's seen enough train wrecks with this exact same scenario in multiple different airports around the state that he would be awfully careful about doing that.
there would be another probably approach. We could rent it to him on a yearly basis. If somebody wants to build a hangar, when his
And
year
we'd have
is up,
2 different leases.
you get into a mess of.
It's essentially happening now. There's stuff on that lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a helicopter landing pad on there.
And a fuel tank.
Well, fuel tank, they moved over onto their.
Oh.
ramp. So I
It's-
was looking at that specifically today, so. Yeah.
I think if we start changing things that are already, we don't want to change any of our leases. We don't want to do anything. You run into the takings clause, when you're favoring one versus the other.
Yeah.
And we've made it our mission to get away and be an FAA airport, and we want to be as consistent as possible. And I think it kind of is, it's right there. I mean, you just can't do it. My opinion, because it fits a hangar. It's a designated hangar spot. You can only have 1. I mean, there's a lot of check marks on we keep searching for the 1 person who will build that hangar to maximize that spot.
I completely agree.
And I think because of what you mentioned in the bylaws, you can't lease 2 lots to the same
Yeah,
entity.
it's true.
So I mean, to me, that's exclusive.
It's just, the future members of the board will thank us for our consistency, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Okay, so if somebody wants to move to that effect, we'll discuss further.
I move that we continue to look for someone to put a hangar up on the empty space in question.
Okay? And for the motion, that is lot number 13.
Okay.
Lucky 13.
Okay.
Number 13.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? And once again, in the interest of breaking up groupthink, if somebody has a differing opinion, now is the time.
Sorry, it was seconded, right?
It was.
Okay.
I second it.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, Eric Stahl again.
Love it.
That's all right.
One thing that I would think about is every takeoff and landing, every airplane you have coming in and out of there, you get extra money from the FAA. Every time he runs in and out of there with a helicopter, taking off and landing, that counts towards a sortie. So that brings in more money to the airport. So that might be one thing you want to think about.
Thank you.
Yep.
So that is somewhat true. We don't get money per takeoff and landing. We, on a large picture, and you could probably speak to this better than I could, but on a large picture, you know, the use of the airport does determine, in a big picture sense, what we are eligible for from the FAA, but we certainly don't get paid for takeoffs and landings. Do you think that's accurate?
Right. It doesn't quite work that way. It's the basis of, it's the basis of, it's like thresholds of operations that help kind of,
Mary, can you go to the, I'm sorry, can you go to the mic? I have people listening, thank you.
apologize. Mary Bell, Robert Petch and Associates. It's more about thresholds of operations than per operation. So it helps define the size of aircraft that frequent your airport and helps us decide, you know, are you a size airport, a B size airport, or C size airport, where a C size airport is much larger, faster aircraft. So, you know, we're in that A-B range, but that's based on operations as well. So there is funding that changes, but it's more of eligibility versus actual dollars.
Sure. It's a valid point. I mean, within certain brackets, you know, you're this size airport, but it's not direct. Yeah.
I'll just make a comment on the individual that was looking at that specific lot. My fault. I cleared my phone of all the spam phone numbers, and it was a California number that he had sent, and I have lost his contact information. I do know that in discussion with him, I think he was waiting on the board to find out where we were going to be with construction and such, as far as starting building and things. Aubrey and I have been trying to get a hold of him by email, but in fairness to him, I think he was kind of just waiting and seeing where we're going to be with construction at this point.
And I think a lot of people are in the same boat.
Yeah.
So again, to reiterate, we have a motion to keep that hangar spot as a hangar spot versus leasing it as bare ground. Is there any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
We just tell Cody, we can't do that because of the,
Well, it's about consistency. I mean, we can have a minimum hangar in there of our minimum hangar size. And so,
we can't rent two. Can't rent two parcels.
Okay. Now I have airport manager report here and also a gravel purchase for 8 Uniform 8. Is that part of the same discussion? Okay, the floor is yours.
Dwight Thompson, Airport Manager. The reason I put that on here is I didn't know if we needed to have that as a separate item to talk about. But so first of all is for the last few days I've been helping out with Cub Scouts, kindergarten through second grade, and we don't pay our teachers enough. I came running in here and I had my Board of Health pamphlet instead of my airport pamphlet, so I was running a little late to get in here. But anyway, things have been happening, of course, out at the airport, and I've been moving some of the stuff from 8U8 out to 8U9 as far as the windsock and some taxiway cones and getting some things kind of, instead of just going to salvage, we've put it out at the other airport. And I did talk with Montana Aeronautics and with the National Guard as far as maybe a placement that would be safe, usable place for a second windsock out there that the Guard would use, and a safe place there. So we're kind of looking at a spot northwest of the end of the north end there to place the other windsock.
Our current 8 uniform 8 windsock.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, it's down, it's torqued out.
Yeah.
I used my tractor to load it up the other day and took it out there, so. And with the added traffic at 8U9 at Canyon Ferry, because this airport's down, you know, they're seeing more activity out there with construction from both Helena and all, you know, surrounding areas. Did get a complaint that there was too much traffic going on out at Canyon Ferry, that we need to have the FAA change the traffic pattern to go out over the lake.
From a resident?
Yeah, yeah. And he was a pilot. Did he get a hold of you, Bob?
No, he did not.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. He said he knew you.
I was gonna explain to him.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's one of
I
those
was
things.
there a
It's-
long
I
time
think,
before you showed up on the scene, but
yeah. So, you know, anyway,
Fair disclosure.
yeah, so, with everything going down at 8U8, there's not a whole lot of activity that I've been doing other than moving some stuff out there, so we kind of switched some focus to cleaning up some stuff out at Canyon Ferry. I did have Commissioner Randolph and TJ, they met me out there, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we looked at the gravel. TJ thought that some binding material could be brought in and packed. Didn't know, he has gone on vacation. He was going to get us some numbers, and he's gone, so I don't have any numbers to present to you now. But I would like to propose that we can use some state aeronautic grant. We can apply for that to be retroactive of funds that we spend this year on next year's grant request or a loan or grant application. You know, just the, you know, the runway is in good shape. I really feel it is. Could it be improved? Yes, it could be improved. And TJ's thought was to bring in some binding material and lay it out at the landing areas. And that if we ever went ahead with the dust pod material, such thing, that material would already be
part of
there.
it would blend right in.
It would blend, yeah, we're
It's
gonna have to,
a
we're gonna have to
road
get
mix.
so many loads, and it would help. So, I'm not sure how to ask to get that done. The county would grade it and pack it and bring some water in to also, pack it down.
Can
Yeah, I'm
you
not sure.
refresh
But
me
there's no
where-
guarantee in reimbursement from
There is no
aeronautics, so-
guarantee, yeah. Yeah.
Do we,
My gut feeling is that we'd get it, but, you know, I don't wanna,
Yeah. Carts before horses, right?
yeah.
We're
So-
about 6 months away from applications.
Yeah, that's due, so.
where are we at with the dust pod conversation? I don't recall off the top of my head.
Kind of got put on the back burner as far as I can remember.
Well, we just didn't have the money, to go with
Well,
it.
we're-
And Aeronautics had asked us to come back with that application again. And, you know, I think it would have went forward, but the county, we really didn't have anything to put, to ante up a little bit, to say we're in the game with you. And so that's why we pulled that application.
That's right.
Yeah. So, you know, I think Aeronautics was behind us. You know,
What depth are you looking at putting this on at?
about 4 inches, Bob.
4 inches?
Yeah.
Primarily on the south end?
The south end, yeah. Just
Pretty rocky.
kind of where the landing areas are is where it's really just chewed up. There's just no binding material there. It's just rock on rock on rock. And you can pack it. And it'd be better if they could bring in some water to pack it beforehand or after a rain. The county's been really good about trying to get out there. They've had some issues with their machine. And I did talk with Ken on Monday, and they are using it, but it's got some hiccups.
There's a seam of gravel that runs through there, right, just almost exactly where the landing end of that runway starts. And you can't compact rock against rock,
Yeah, yeah.
you know? And it may work to take and either blade or sweep that rock off where we can use it someplace else before putting the mix down.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not a road expert at all, but.
I'm not either,
Yeah,
My
yeah,
experience with, them round rocks that are are out there, they work their way to the surface.
they do,
We
yeah.
we need it off of there and then put.
Yeah,
material
I think
down
it just,
and
no
find-
matter you wipe off, it's just gonna keep, I think it's rock on rock on rock, but I don't know.
If we get rid of all the rock on that runway, it'll be a big hole in there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a riverbed.
Yeah, yeah, we,
Touch the edge.
we need some binding material under something, clay or something. We do have a fly-in coming up there in 2 weeks on the 28th of this month. I will be gone. I did get a phone call from Cessna. What is it? It's the parent company. They are,
Textron, I believe.
yeah, which Matt had called me and said I would be getting a call from them. They would like to bring in a brand new Cessna to show. And they were wanting to know the runway conditions, and so I told them. And so they're going to land in Helena, and they'll have it's their corporate people, so renting a car is no big deal, and they're going to drive down and take a look at it because the Cessnas that they want to bring in do have wheel pants on them, they said, and so that's kind of a neat thing that, Canyon Fair, you're going to have the Cessna, brand new Cessna sitting down there for that. But,
Shiny object.
yeah,
Model are they gonna be flying in?
I'm sorry,
What model aircraft?
I don't know.
Citation.
Yeah, he did say.
Citation.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing
Some way to
182 or
push that
something.
I was thinking them maybe
Yeah,
C5s at the Air
yeah.
Force.
I'm guessing a 182 or 206 something. But yeah, it's kind of something that we getting recognized by those guys. So or an interest. And yeah, since all I have is my Board of Health minutes to share with you, I don't think you'd be interested in that. So that's about all I have.
I guess regarding the discussion about bringing in material now, I mean, I guess we need a quote from TJ, and then we can decide if we want to wait to do it with the dust pods. I would think.
Okay. Yeah, I'd asked for this before, I realized TJ's gone, so I didn't. So,
I just don't want to run into the same thing we did last year when we were down to the last minute. Is it December was the deadline for the aeronautics?
no,
We're up
it's
against
November.
fence and-
November.
Yeah.
November 16th
Yeah.
or somewhere the 20th,
Yeah,
somewhere thereabouts.
yeah, another year's going by, and
What we ought to do is get a updated quote from QT pod. Whatever the other pod is, dust
yeah,
pod.
dust pods, yeah, all the pods,
What's with the pod thing?
yeah,
I know.
yeah,
Strange, isn't it?
yeah.
Anyways,
When he was here, he did feel that his numbers would last for a while, but
He
due
did.
diligence would,
Yeah,
better to have more accurate numbers.
yeah, even if we didn't go with them, at least, my feeling is even if we didn't go with the pods for now, or whatever you want to do, is to get some of that gravel covered up.
We at least need to have some numbers.
Yeah, oh yeah, I apologize,
well,
I
and
don't have
largely,
any.
it'll be up to the county because, that's where the money would come from for hauling in binder anyway.
Yeah, and TJ's up to, he visits with the two gravel companies just north of town, and they are doing some crushing and stuff. He said this is the time to probably get the cheapest. I think, did he say 20 loads? Does that sound? Yes. He thought around, I think it was like 20 loads, but,
I don't recall.
but yeah, he goes, how you measure that stuff and what you need, I don't know.
I mean, one of us could review because a lot of this discussion took place when we did talk to the dust pods guy, and TJ was here, and they did talk about the underlayments. So if it was something that was going to happen anyways, I mean, we could review the minutes or review the video if we knew which specific one it was. And some of that information might be in there.
And I'm sure TJ will be back in the office Monday. He's kind of keeping track of emails a little bit, but I'm sure by Tuesday he can get you
Yeah,
the number of
yeah.
loads it would take.
I just can get it together before this meeting, so,
He
Yeah.
plus the notes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
At this time, we're feeling pretty tapped out with money,
Yeah. We
Yeah.
might, we may run into unexpected expenses, so I don't know.
There's
Yeah,
November.
I don't think we
The dust
want to
pods.
stick our nose into anything else till we're completed over there.
What was the
Maybe,
date again?
can we turf it till next time?
Oh, yeah, it could be
Okay.
turfed and turfed and turfed, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
not intentionally, I mean,
Yeah.
but more information is more information,
Yeah.
so.
yeah.
So let's leave this item on the agenda for next time.
Great.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next item is fuel pricing. Obviously, not much to discuss there. The wholesale price, I want to say was $4.31, so it's come up
So
about
it came up a ways.
5 or 10 cents or something.
I think that was because of the little deals going on in between Iran and Israel.
Yeah, still it's below the normal rise for this
Oh, yeah.
time of year. But anyway, it's kind of an irrelevant discussion until we start selling anyway, so.
How much do we have in the tank?
Last month it was 7,700.
Yeah.
I sent the gallons, I didn't have to take,
I was just curious, the lower pricing if we had a run on it.
Oh, yeah, good point. I don't know. It'd be easy enough. I could look that up.
Okay.
Email you.
That'd be worth knowing. And it's, don't need to know it this month, next month's just fine.
And I misspoke. Last month we had 6,700.
67.
yeah, I can go on tap tank and get your.
Yeah, that'd be great, and then we'll know. The nice thing is you can literally just look it up online now, so.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not a direct measurement, like tapping the tank. But. Okay, is there any new business? Yes?
Back on the fuel thing, I just want to say is, you know, on that last fuel change thing, Adam was able to make that switch pretty easy.
The price change. you're
Yeah, the
saying.
price change, it was
Yeah.
actually
Good news.
pretty neat that it worked. And it was, yeah.
It took me 5 minutes only because I couldn't get through the menu very easily. So now that I have the method, it's literally like 30 seconds to
Yeah,
change.
that's a
Yeah,
good, that's a good
It used to
thing.
be a cooperative effort between
Yeah,
Oh,
two or
yeah.
three people and
Yeah,
would
yeah.
entail an hour.
draw up a subcommittee.
It's a
And,
good thing, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
okay, any other new business? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Okay.